A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Design Meetup 2.0, powered by IxDF Kerala and co-sponsored by Experion Technologies. Firstly, I'd like to request everyone to type in what your role is. If you're a student, if you're a beginner, if you're a UX designer, a UI designer, visual designer, or any role that you're doing. If you're a developer, please mention in the chat window, because our speaker really wants to understand our crowd today so that he can also speak accordingly. So I see, okay, students, we have, okay, would you like to also mention what you're studying? Like if you're a UX design student, we have UX engineers, we have senior product designer. I hope you can see the chat, Chris. We see lot of, we have a UI intern. Great. I think UI developers, yeah, I think it's a great crowd because this is definitely going to be a useful topic for all of you. So let me just talk to you a little about what we'll be covering today. So we're talking about how to get started with micro interactions in UI design with the tools available, and how to export these interactions and integrate them into a user interface. So micro interactions do help by informing the user when they interact with the interface. But with the growing competition in digital platforms available today, these small additions can help you stand out in terms of the user experience. And as a designer, being all the more creative with micro interactions can help you win your customers' interest. So our speaker today will be talking to us about making of micro interactions and LottieFiles by Radha Krishna. So to talk more about him, he's an extremely knowledgeable person and has many years of experience in the UX world. He's someone who believes better design can solve a lot of our problems. He always considers design as a more thoughtful expression than a fancy looking interface. He runs an NGO called Planic, which facilitates everyone to contribute to society, which is at the moment being revamped. And I would like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Radha Krishna, who we fondly call Chris, to give us some valuable insights on making of micro interactions and LottieFiles. For the ease of a better experience, we muted the audience mics during the session. So please put in your questions in the chat window. We do have an exclusive Q&A session at the end of the webinar, but till then we'll probably wait, and you can also put in your, type in your questions, and then during the Q&A, we can probably have the audience interact and discuss with our wonderful speaker today. A recorded version of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. And for those who are just joining us, welcome to Making of Micro Interactions and LottieFiles by Radha Krishna. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. That was a big intro, and I could use that in my CV next time when I'm drafting one. So yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And so micro interaction, I'm sure most of you know what is micro interaction, and that's exactly why you're here. And so micro interaction, to put it simple way, it really gives a feedback when something is being done or something is about to happen. It gives you a visual feedback to the customer so that you know what just happened. Sometimes it could keep you informed about what's about to happen. Just for example, when you launch an application, and sometimes a few years ago, it used to be just a logo, the brand's logo. But now you can see that the logo is getting like animated. That's again an interaction. It's a micro interaction. And again, once you launch the application, and even when you input the form, and sometimes the label just animates. Of course, most of the things are handled natively these days, but it's again an interaction. It is a small interaction. That's why we call it as micro interaction. And same thing when you hover on a button, how you visualize, how you imagine, all these things are considered as interaction. But the basic stuff like hover state, moving objects from one place to another place, like changing the opacity, hiding things, all these things can be handled by the developers themselves. Where we kick in to add up more spices to do that little animation. For example, in Twitter, when you click on the favorite icon, it bubbles and it bursts out some line strokes. That's interesting. And in Swiggy, when you place an order, you know, it will show an animation of a tick mark, like doing a circle and does a check mark. So that's again, it is an interesting animation because of course the same thing can be sent just by a toast message saying, hey, your order is placed, and that's it. People will still understand, but we are pushing the boundaries and we are trying to make it interesting for the customers. And that's why we introduce all this expression in the form of animation. And back in the days, it used to be just a GIF or video format, which is very heavy to load. But now we have LottieFiles and so many other options, which is very lightweight and easy to do. So all we need to do is just imagine, and then we have all the tools needed to make it possible. So let's get started. And what we will be covering is, so before we do, I just wanted to say there are two different types of animations, micro interactions you can imagine. Some things are linear, and which means something like when an action is triggered, you just simply play an animation. So that could be animating an icon, that could be animating like a confirmation page or anything, which doesn't require a constant interaction from the customer. And there are component animations. For example, Tinder is the best example because when you do swipe and left or right, you press and hold it, and then you make the move. And until you release it, it doesn't happen. So these kind of animations, it's difficult to do it with Lotties because then it takes more energy from the developers to control frame by frame. But it is easier to do from the development standpoint. But yeah, there are two types of animations. You need to be sure which path you wanted to take, and then you can decide whether you're gonna do the After Effects LottieFiles way or standard development way, which is the hard way. And we have some of the tools. So when it comes to LottieFile, you can produce the animation. I mean, I personally prefer After Effects, and different people can have different preferences. But here are the list of tools where you can leverage it and produce the animation. So there is Animate, I mean, Flash, it's the same thing, it's been rebranded. And then there is Cavalry, there is Inkscape, there is Haiku, there is Flow. There is also a possibility with Sketch, Principle, with some plugins. So there are whole range of tools you can actually take advantage of. But in my personal experience, After Effects is the most easiest tool because it can allow you to do so many other things, which could really benefit you as an interaction designer. And here, so when we take the After Effects route, which is what we're gonna do it in this session. So there are two important plugins. One is Body Moving, and there is the LottieFiles. So there is LottieFiles is actually is a plugin written by Airbnb, and there is a website called LottieFiles.com where you can access a whole lot of libraries free to use. You can just simply download and use it. But in our case, we'll be producing it and exporting as a Lottie file. So when you use these two plugins, what you can do ultimately is you can export a JSON file, which you can integrate into your range of prototyping tools, or you can simply pass this JSON file, your developer, front-end developers, they'll be happy to integrate it, just like integrating a JPEG image or a PNG. There is really no difference. It is just a piece of code. And that's it. We're gonna jump into the workshop. So I'm about to share you what I'm trying to do. All right. So this is a dummy page. Assume this is like a app, allows you to place order. You can place order whatever food you like. So where we're gonna try experimenting is we have this icon. It's a simple add to cart icon. What we're gonna do is when the user clicks on it, we want this to animate. We wanted maybe for this demo, I'm gonna try to make like a smiley come in, and then it pretty much looks like a face to me. So I'm just gonna simply draw a smiley, and then I'm gonna put some strokes as if it's like radiating, and then maybe we can make the back do a little jump. So we're gonna do that. That's the part of creating the animation in After Effects. And then what we do is we will export it using body moving. And then probably if we have time, then when they click on play icon, we can import, we can download the whole range of libraries from LottieFiles.com, and then we can integrate it as well. So that's something if we get lucky with time. So to start with, what we do is let's try to, okay, this is the card icon. I'm going to put it into 4x because I can, of course, do it in 1x and it'll be too small. And I need a reference. Let me say export, got a PNG file. I fired up my, right. Okay, let me do it from the beginning. So I import this file, got it. And then I'm creating a new comp. So if in the chat, if anybody feels this is going too fast, if I need to explain After Effects, please let me know so that I can be a bit more descriptive. All right, so in After Effects, what we got is I just dragged and dropped it into the project widget. And then over here, I press Command N. This is a new composition. So I can select whatever I want. I'm gonna simply say 400 by 400 pixel. That's enough for me for now. And we got the card. So the thumb rule with LottieFile is it has to be created inside the After Effects. And of course, you can always import the Illustrator file and then do the conversion. But for the sake of your experience, please try to recreate it in After Effects. And anybody aware of After Effects, there is always something called, you can always pre-compose, you can add another layer, Command Y, you get this solid. You can always say whatever color you want. Say, okay, I'm pushing it to the background. Now, what you can do is you can always pre-compose this. This is pretty much like grouping it, and that's how After Effects work, pre-compose. But in our case, because this has to be exported as a Lottie file, we don't want it to nest things. So there is no pre-compose. We will try to do it everything within the parent composition itself. So to start with, let me go ahead and lock it. All right, so I'm picking up a pen tool. Let me change the stroke to something I can see. All right. All right. All right, so I'm gonna reduce the, all right, it's fair enough. I'm not gonna try to do a perfect one because it's only to give an idea. And this is one shape. All right, we have it. And of course, we don't want any fill. So I select the fill and choose it as none. That's cool. And next, I need shapes. I need to drop some circle. So it's best always to name this so you know what you're dealing with. Say handle, bag, and then I'm gonna create and make a fill, and then probably remove the stroke. I don't want any. All right. And now this is something we need to make an adjustment, because you see this is the pivot point, and to change the pivot point you can always select this one and then try to move it and hold command, so you can basically align it. And yeah, let me go closer, put it in the center. Got it. Now we have left eye. I'm going to duplicate it, command D, and positioning it to the right side. I got this one. So if I hide it, I have the basic shape. So handle and bag, I'm going to select together, pick the color, change it to white, done. And now this is we kind of recreated everything. Okay, no fill for the handle. No, no, okay. So now next thing is I'm gonna put a simple smiley. All right. Again, you can be very creative. You can put a typical smiley, the whole thing, or you can even do it only the halfway, like a smirking. But for this sake, I don't want the smirking to be weird, so no risk. So let it be the smiley. So what do we do now is except the smile, everything else is gonna be the same because that's the original icon, right? So only this we are adding it. Now, secondly, we can do some radiating stuff. And for that, what we do is just a line and then create another line, maybe a little shorter line. All right, have some patience. All right. So let's say we will try to animate these lines as if it's like radiating. We got all of these lines, and finally we will make it jump, right? So that's another part. So cool. So number one is let's animate the smiley. So when you open this chevron icon and then click on this add, you have something called trim path. Let's use it and then open this trim path. And now when you animate this, the end is like 100%. So in the beginning, it has to be like 0. So animate the checkbox like a timer. And probably by within 1 second, we want this to be 100%. And then you select these keyframes as a general practice. Always use function F9. So that will do apply easy in. So that's how it is. This is too slow. So now let's assume that we want this whole thing to be like not more than 3 seconds. So we can always trim it. So you know you have to work within this range. So it's too slow. All right. That is that. All right, cool. So of course, if you want more customization, you can always select this and click on this curve editor. And in curve editor, you got whole range of controls. So you can select this and this icon, the graph icon, you select edit speed graph. That's easier way. And if you do plus, so now this is the easy and this is the standard part. What you can do is you can always push it this way, which means now it's going faster, and then it takes a whole lot of time to do the climax. So that's how it is. So you can play with it. This is more handier way. So now you see, now there is life into the smile. So that's cool. And what do we do is probably right after this point, maybe if you're crazy, then we can select this, come to the normal mode, and then select S on the keyboard. It will bring up the scale. Open the timer, go a few frames, select add a keyframe. So you have the starting and finish with the same keyframe. But maybe in the middle, what we can do is you can adjust the height. So it's like it's doing a wink just for the one eye. Maybe for the other eye, we don't want it. So we remove this keyframes. Okay, it's too slow. Function F9 for keyframes. And if you select everything and then hold command and then, sorry, option. Yeah, if you hold option and then drag, you can basically squeeze it. So now try to see, okay, it looks good. All right, so we want to finish the smile and maybe just about that point, we want this. So we will move the position. Okay, perfect. And after this point, we want this radiating thing to come. What we do is we try to do the same thing. We try to run everything at the same time. Add trim path. And probably in this position, so what we can do is we can open parentheses. So it will push all of them at the same time. So let me select open parentheses. So it doesn't exist before that point. It happens only here. And at this point, let me add trim path. So it has added, not for everyone, but the same logic. Open a keyframe, go to the end, open another keyframe, come back to the beginning. You can press keyboard J. You can jump J and K. You can jump back and forth between keyframes. So you come to J and then you make it 0. So what you got is that's getting animated. Now, the simple way is function F9 again. Let's do it. Copy, and let's see, paste it. Now the same property is being pasted. You see, that's it. So what we do is we go back, we go to this original one, what we created, go to the editor, select it, push it, so you're happy with it. and then come back. Now copy this because now it carries all the properties. Paste it, paste, 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 and paste. So now all is happening at the same time. Probably we can shuffle a little bit, like so. Some things triggers a little slower and some things a little faster. All right. Okay, so here there is one more thing. Probably what we missed is once it extends, we probably want them to retract as well, right? So for that, what do we do? Is we use something called offset. So what offset does is it will move the position. Okay, now the position is pretty much identical, so that's why you don't see it. But what we can do is we can use the start checkbox, which will retract it. So what we do is we open a checkbox keyframe, probably at this point, move a little, and then make it 100. So what this will do is it will open and then close. Create, delete it. All right. There is a little issues over here, as you can see, but we're not gonna try and fix it because that's not really important because we are trying to get the concept. And over here, what we do is we come to the beginning of this frame, copy this whole thing, and let's see. Okay, because it's because of the offset. I said something, so there is no offset. All right. So that's perfect. Sounds okay, looks good. So I come to the beginning frame now, I copy all these properties and then go to this. I open the keyframe, delete it, then paste the new keyframes. So that also looks great. Open to this one, press U on the keyboard. It will show me all the keyframes. And then I'm pressing J. I'll jump back to the beginning, delete it, paste my new keyframes. I'm just repeating the same. All right. U, selecting it, deleting, pasting, and then jumping. U, delete, paste. So now as you can see, it appears. Okay, at this point, what I'll do is probably I will make the smiley, left eye, all these things to jump. So now I want all of this to jump at the same time. Instead of moving the position, what I'll do is I'll create a new null object. Imagine this is more like a controller. All right. So what I'll do is I'll select the smile, left eye, right eye, and then the bag, handle, all of it. And I'll pick this little hypnotizing symbol and then drop it onto the controller. So what happens is, you see this? This is basically the parent. So it is saying this object has to be controlled by this layer, which is the controller. So now if I move the position, I move the whole thing. It's pretty much like linking, but beyond linking, it will take all the properties. If I, except opacity doesn't work, but scale, position, everything is getting influenced. So now what I'll do is, at this point, I want the position to do a little jump. So I will set the beginning and the end. And then maybe at this point, it has to go a little up and then it will drop. All right. So to make it interesting, function F9, everything is cool. So I'll go to the curve editor. So this is my editor. And what I'll do is it will go slow because of gravity and it will drop fast. So what I'll do is it'll go slow. So it's taking time and then it will drop fast. And yeah, again, let's see how it looks. It's not dramatic. All right, so this looks a bit more natural. What I can do is I can always, it has to be settled. Otherwise, it's gonna be too distracting. So at this point, I want all of this radiance to kick in a little sooner. Okay, at this point, I also want this to happen. All right, so now imagine this is going to be our animation. So this looks good. Not saving it. So now this is our little animation. So now we have extra room. You don't need all this space. So what you can do is you can always go to Command K. You're going to the settings. You can make it to 300 by 300. And yeah, maybe it's not even 200 by 200. Okay, this is fair enough. You can see it. Now what we do is the animation ends around this point. So what you can do is you can press just N. So it will create the endpoint on your timeline. So it's gonna render only till this. It doesn't care what's outside. Now, what we do is you need to install a plugin called Body Moving. And so that's simple. It's a Body Moving. So Body Moving, you go to this. Basically, if you have Creative Cloud subscription, you click this free icon, it will install, bring up your Creative Cloud, and it will be synced. And you just need to restart your After Effects, and you can have this right away. And LottieFiles is pretty much the same way. So what do we do now is After Effects. Once you install it, you go to Windows extension, Body Moving. So you got Body Moving. You see this is the comp1 name, so it's showing comp1. What you do is just simply select it, and then you select the destination folder. I'll just say download. I put into this folder, I give a name called cart, save it, and then hit render. That's it, you're done. So the file is ready for you to see. And what do we do next is, now we just need to know if everything works fine. So head on to LottieFiles.com, because you need to be absolutely sure if the render animation looks the same way. So before handing off to the devs. So go to design, you have something called preview. So what you do is you have the JSON file, it's already produced. And what we do is simply drag and drop. Okay, it will look, don't worry, just expand it. Now you see this is the animation, you're getting it. So the cool part about previewing with LottieFile is, in case if there is minor tweaks, you can always go to handoff, and you can go to edit animation, and you see there are different layers. So what you can do is you can always change the colors as you like, and that gets changed. And there are different shapes, left eye, right eye. So for left eye, the colors are like white. You can even change it to yellow. Okay, that's affecting a different layer, you see. So I'll undo it now. All right. So now what we do is, this is only to make sure you have exactly the animation output as you did in After Effects. Now, once you're happy with it, then this is the file produced by After Effects Body Moving. So all you can need to do is simply give this file to your dev and say, hey, please take it. So they will do the magic of integrating it. But in case if you want to use it in your prototype and you wanted to make sure how it looks and all the stuff, what you can do is you can, let me show. All right, say I'm gonna prototype, I'm gonna launch prototype. And yeah, this background can be removed as well. So that is because in After Effects, I added the layer, this layer. If I exported this Lottie file without the layer, it's gonna be transparent. So I do have my prototype over here. I'm gonna say new pie. All right, so here is the thing. All right. So I'm importing this cart image, and the background, let me change it to something so we can see. All right. Now, what do we do is when we click on this icon, we want this Lottie file to play, right? So for that, first, we need to import the Lottie. And I import this Lottie file. So that's what it is. And as you can see in the preview, it's not playing back, right? So you can play automatically. So it's there. Of course, you can click on looping. It's there. So remember when we exported, it was in 4x. So, and then we try to trace it in the same stuff. So what we need to do is this one, we need to reduce the size 4 times. So we lock it So this, if we make it 50, it's gonna be perfectly fine. In this case, it is still not. So just be careful with it. Or there is another option. One is, so I'll make it 100. So I'm gonna duplicate it. Gonna duplicate it. This one I will not play automatic. It's gonna stay the same. And this one, I'm gonna say animate. So I'm gonna position it exactly on top of each other. This one is not animating, but when we trigger, it will do this. Okay. So now what do we do is we have this icon and we create a trigger, say tap it, and then we create an action. We say what we need to do is do a playback. We need to do a playback. What do we do? Animate this animate object. And looping, we don't want any loop, just a play. And you see the seek bar, this is in case if you want to animate the draggable, you can always try to do this. But for now, all we need is this. So when this happens, you see, I just click. That's it. So I click it, it happens for the first time. And what we can do is after this playback, we can create another thing called reset, because now I cannot repeat this, right? So if I do reset, see what happens. Okay, I need to reset, animate, duration, cubic. Huh. Some reason not working. Okay, but you get the idea. So imagine this is a simple icon, you have an animation, you create a trigger, so that animation happens. So that's how it is. So that's the end. Yeah, I hope you guys found it interesting, and let me know if you have any question. If possible, I try to demonstrate. That's it.
Thank you so much, Chris. We probably enable the unmute option for the audience.
Sure.
Just a minute. Okay. Thank you so much. That was really useful. I think a lot of UI designers, especially the budding ones who are just learning, it would have definitely been useful for them. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions for Chris, or you can type in the chat window, and your participation will help making this session more interactive and interesting. So I think I'll start with the first question. So as a UX designer, I know I've definitely learned a lot today. And so the first would be like, how complicated do you think it is to implement these micro interactions?
To implement is really not complicated at all from the developer, front-end developer standpoint. It is as simple as importing a PNG file. It is as simple. They don't even need to install any external library to make it possible for the playback. I mean, a few years ago, they are supposed to use a library, but now even that is not the case. It can work so flawless.
A lot of people do hesitate because they think it's a lot of time and money. So do you have any comments on that?
No, it's not, because 99% of the job is done by the designer, and they are giving a handoff the JSON file. All they need to do is just do a playback, just play. Sometimes things may be necessary to play backwards. So it goes forward and then backwards, but they always have some attributes to trigger those interactions. The best example is the hamburger menu. When you click on something, we can animate it. The three stripes can become an X, and then when you toggle, it has to go back to the hamburger, like the three stripes, right? So it's like forward and backward. So this kind of controls is again not complicated, and I mean, I think some developers may find it interesting because there is some complexity and they can push the limit, so they have an interesting day. Otherwise, it's just another boring day.
Okay, so we had a question when you had started off, I think Saidos, SAID, I don't know how you pronounce it, if I'm saying it right. So why PNG and why not SVG?
Because in After Effects, we cannot import the SVG.
Okay, so Mithun, you have a question. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask question?
Yeah, so hi guys, everyone.
You can turn on your video if you'd like.
No, that's fine. That's fine, right? And yeah, so recently I had so I was handing off an animation in XD. So the developers actually asked for GIF, and so I am not good at like After Effects, so I just took one from LottieFiles and I just gave the GIF directly to them. So I didn't do any animation. So I was in a doubt key, like if we can export from the After Effects as a GIF, or is it really like are the GIF like easier way for the developers?
No. If anybody's saying that, tell them they are. I mean, it is outdated. First of all, we don't need to use GIF, and when we have something more robust and more lightweight called Lottie, there is no reason we should use GIF anymore. And we should upgrade ourselves, and the dev should adapt to the Lottie file.
So better
it is possible. Technically, it is possible. You can export to GIF as well. Even a Lottie file, you can just open to LottieFile.com and you can preview that file and export it from there as well into a GIF. But it is unnecessary step. We have something better to do.
So I guess JSON files are like easier for them as well, right?
It is like 30, 40 times lighter. Okay. Why would they not do it?
Thank you.
And GIF, can we do backward? No. Can they do seeking control? Like every draggable position, we have to incrementally distribute the animation as well. I mean, we cannot do this in GIF, and if somebody can do it in GIF, he is like a god level developer. So yeah.
Thank you. Nitin, are you a UI designer?
I am an intern, UI intern right now.
Okay, great. Okay. I hope you found the session useful.
Yes, this is great.
Okay. Thank you, Mithun, for that question. So next we have Rahul. Rahul, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, sure, Vandana. So, Chris, my question is like, I've seen that you've opened the Lottie file in Protopy to use it in the prototype, right? So my question is like, is there a way we can use, this Lottie files in Axure and Figma to view like how the animation is, and Loki, it'll be easy for us to, during the prototype demonstration to the client, they can actually see like how this.
True. We should write to Figma team, but they're working on it. As I know, they at this point as we speak, Figma doesn't support LottieFile preview into their prototype. Okay, so we have to wait, and once they roll out that update, it's gonna be great. Right now, there is plugins which can allow you to browse the LottieFile library, and you can import it inside Figma, but there is no way it can preview in the prototype. So we need to wait for that, and I'm very confident. 6 months ago, Figma didn't have a very robust prototyping option, but now they totally rock, and it's in par with XD. And sometimes it's even better than XD when it comes to prototyping. So I'm sure in a few months they will roll out a Figma preview as well, so you can embed. But yeah, we have to wait.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you.
You got your answer, right?
I did, yes.
What do you do, Rahul?
I'm a UX designer.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Actually, the thing is, thank you, Rahul, for asking, and it's the same question that Febin had for us. So I hope we've answered your question. He asked, can we do the same with Figma? I think it's a very, we all love Figma. I mean, working with teams, about how collaborative it is. So definitely that was a great question to have. Would you like to add any comments?
One workaround is there are plugins in Figma which allows you to convert the Lottie file, JSON file, into GIF. So for the sake of demonstration, in the Figma prototype, it will be a GIF file. But for the developers, you can always pass on the JSON file. So the goal is achieved because the client doesn't care this is a GIF or a Lottie file, right? All he cares about the performance, which can be handled with the developers. So that's a patch right now for now.
Yeah, I mean, they are bringing some great updates. So definitely, hopefully, we'll have it on Figma soon as well. Yeah. So we have Friday Ticket. I'm not sure if it's your name. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, sure. My name is Anwar Ashraf, and I'm asking that is it possible to implement the same by using the hover state in XD files? So I think I get the answer from the last question because I don't think that XD supports Lottie files.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure about this because it's been a long time I explored with XD. Maybe it is possible. I don't know. But for hover state, I don't know, to be honest. LottieFile and XD, last time I checked, it was not possible, but maybe now it is.
Anwar, is it? Anwar?
Yes, my name is Anwar.
What do you do, Anwar?
I'm a student and a UA intern.
Okay, great. Okay. So I think we'll have to probably dig a little deeper for that answer. So as of now, yeah, we probably can't is what, based on what he's experienced earlier. So thank you, Anwar, for that question. So we have Satish. Okay, that is, so Satish says, thank you, Chris. It's a very good session and quite useful. And we need more sessions to improve us. So that's a compliment for you, Chris. I have one more question for you. How do people get inspirations? I mean, you had a very, very simple thing that you executed and showed us. And, maybe we get inspired from life. So how do people get inspirations for variations for these micro interactions?
Okay, different people have different sources. So I constantly browse Dribble and see what people are doing. And sometimes that really helps. And there are, just go to Dribble and go to the animation tab. You have all sorts of different animations and then try to adapt it. And I mean, put it in your mind and it will stay there subconsciously and kick in when you need it. And the most important piece of this micro interaction is your imagination. The tools are really the basic. It's really only the 10%. The 90% comes from your imagination and how far you want to push it. And the tools anybody can. I mean, 30 minutes you can pick up a tool and you can do it. But see more and try to experiment and try to challenge the developers. So yeah.
Thank you, Chris. So we have another question by Shag. Would you want to, try and, okay, go ahead. You might want to tell us what you do and then ask.
I'm a UX designer actually. My question is like, can we create Lottie files without using After Effects? Like any way is there, like only, or we need to use After Effects for creating the Lottie files? I'm
Not
asking
really,
because,
of course.
because like I used experiment with the Flow app actually. So it started with the Figma, like this kind of micro interaction, like a Figma artboards, and convert that into some animations. So Flow is supporting like that way. So anyway, like Lottie files.
Of course, I earlier shared in my deck. There is Haiku. There is, you can also do this from Sketch. There is Inkscape. There is another Adobe tool called Animate. So there are at least 10 different alternatives. But for this workshop, I picked After Effects as my choice, but you can always use so many other tools that you're discussing.
Okay.
Whichever you find comfortable.
Yeah. Did you get your answer, or do you want to comment on it? What do you think about it, Vaishak?
Like get the answer. I was thinking like I'm not so good in After Effects, but like if a UX designer will be good in Figma or kind of animation app or prototyping applications. So Flow is kind of supporting creating some animations from artboards in Figma. Directly we can use it Flow and create some animations like this. So I was thinking like any other option is there rather than using After Effects.
So I would personally recommend investing your time in After Effects is going to be very worthwhile in a long term, because for us as a career, it's not just going to be an interaction and stuff. Sometimes people can also extend as a motion designer. They could animate some video, like the whole how the application works, and maybe they get interested with 3D and they integrate some 3D stuff. So After Effects is like really a foundation into this spectrum of animation. So it is worthwhile. There is no limits when you, with Flow, Inkscape, and other tools. It is very specific. It is a tool developed for that explicit purpose. But After Effects is like being an all-rounder. You become so versatile. You can, so much potential in After Effects.
Thanks, Chris. I will give it a try.
Thank you, Vaishak. We hope to see you probably give it a try. Come back and tell us on our social media how you found it, maybe. So do we have any other questions from the audience? Please feel free. We have Chris here. It's not always we get him. So you can ask your questions. We do have we'll probably extend the session by another 10 minutes. So you can ask any questions, or if you want to share how you found the session, please feel free to drop in your comments in the chat window. Ajneesh, do you want to ask?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You might want to say what you do and then also ask a question.
Yeah, hi, Chris. Myself, Ajneesh, front-end consultant.
Hi, Ajneesh.
First of all, it was a great session. I got some new concepts. So I had doubt if the JSON is actually contained here vector data or bitmap. I'm thinking from the browser performance perspective, and
it's a piece of code.
Possible, if it is possible to customize it from the front end implementation, like the graphics you created is a smiley. Is it possible to change the color from the implementation? Like that?
Yes, it is possible. There are different attributes, and the JSON has all the values, color values, the size, and in fact, it can also give you the position values. So if you leverage that position, which means you can jump into that exact seek point of that animation. So it is a piece of code. So you can always take advantage to the full capacity.
Okay. So it is still a bitmap, right? Not a vector.
No, it's not a bitmap. It's a vector. It's a vector.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajneesh, for asking the question. Does anyone have any? Does anyone from the audience want to share how they found the session? So we have a lot of people, any UI designers or any students who want to share their experience. Everyone is feeling a little shy.
Is there anything you guys have in mind? You want me to show something, demonstrate something quickly? I can do that. Feel free to ask.
Is it Anirudh? Are you trying to ask a question? Or?
Chris Jinson here.
Yes.
As always, it's a great session, Chris. And just one point I would like to add to Ajnesh's question. So since we are exporting a JSON file, the developer has the full control on the animation. They can programmatically control the animations, basically.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, and most importantly, one of the use case would be like in a mobile application, the splash screen.
Yes.
Usually the developers use this LottieFile, so they can control the animation, when to play, when to stop. That control is also there.
Yeah, they can. In fact, they can do it in such a way that if you're animating the logo in the splash screen, the logo can actually shrink and it can actually go and transform and sit it in the nav bar. That is also a possibility.
Correct.
So there is like a seamless transition. So it's not like a cutoff after the splash screen. We are like not going to jumping to another screen and we are using a different asset. So this can do a very smooth transition.
Correct. Cool.
Thank you, Jensen. So actually, does anyone do we have anyone in the audience who's already doing micro interactions and want to share their experience, their favorite tool, and how?
Yeah.
We haven't heard from anyone who.
Yes, that will be a good question. Like, which interaction really inspired you guys to look into micro interaction? For me, it was the Twitter heart icon. When we clicked that little splatter, it was charming. And only then the Facebook did the like, and then the LinkedIn did join the party. But it was Twitter who did it in the beginning. And like that, what really inspired you guys?
So the question here, Chris is asking is, what is your favorite micro interaction that you first saw and fell in love with the whole concept, or currently your favorite? We have a lot of interesting micro interactions on Dunzo. That's fascinated me. So does anyone have any favorites? You can type in the chat window or unmute yourself and share your views. Vaishak, do you have a favorite micro interaction? Are you still here? From any app? Okay, we seem to have.
Yeah, I will just add one thing. So it's not my favorite animation. So the thing is, like, coincidentally, just like 2 days back, I think it was last Friday that I had to like give an animation, and then I wasn't able to do it. And so, like as I said, I wasn't like good with After Effects. So I just made a prototype so I took an illustration, I made a prototype in XD, and like I hand off that to the developer. So that's what, so it's like the right time that I got this, and I have just mailed to my seniors, like, I would try if you just give me like 1 or 2 days, I'll try it in After Effects, and I'll like, so I didn't know about JSON files actually. I thought like, okay, I'll export as a GIF in like in After Effects. So I just mailed them like, if you just give me like 1 or 2 days, I'll sort it out. So this came at the right time actually. So I'm like very thankful for that.
Thank you. Is this Vaishak, right? Vaishak, so would you actually go back and try it out, or? So
this is Mithun actually.
Oh, Mithun, okay, Mithun.
Yeah.
So would this inspire you to go back and try it out?
Yeah, I would do that. So I was actually waiting for like my team to get back. So they haven't actually, and I was just going through some like I have actually done like 1 or 2 small like I made like a GIF clip in Photoshop that was like 2 years back. So right now I just went through 1, 2 videos also in After Effects. So this has given me like kind of inspiration. So I just asked like, if you just give me 1 day, maybe I'll try to do that, and I'll come with JSON files. Since developers ask GIF, I'll tell like, okay, I've got JSON. It's like
Thank you so much, Mithun, for sharing that. Chris, you have any comments on like what to keep in mind while handing off when you have micro interactions?
No. There is nothing. I mean, there is nothing there to go wrong, and even if there is, it's a part of learning, so we can do a workaround around it. But as long as you have the source file in After Effects, we can always tweak and make the edits. Just make sure in the After Effects when you do it, don't nest it with 3 comps. That's gonna cause trouble. And yeah, that's all.
We have a question from Ashik.
Hello, Vandana.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Azhar. Is it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. And then we'll give a question from Ashik after you.
Yeah.
So you might want to say what you do as well. So for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah, so I'm a UI designer actually. Yeah, so to talk about my favorite app, I've been using this app called Headspace recently. And I love their animation, especially when we meditate, those seamless animation which we get. Those are like, so calm to see, and it's so good. And one of my favorite apps is also Dunzo, as Vandana said. Like when we order like anything, we can see a delivery boy going in a scooter, all those things, all those things which makes actually gives that application. And it's so good to watch and feel like ordering again and again just to see that animation. Those are my favorite.
Great. That's a good example because the delivery boy going on a scooter, that graphic is quite large. It's pretty much like 40% of the screen. And if you do that, and Danzo uses a lot of colors, right? So when you use different colors and then different like larger in size, the GIF file size gonna shoot up. LottieFile, we don't have that problem.
Yes.
Thank you, Azhar, for that question, for the comment, and for sharing your favorite micro interact. We have Ashik. Ashik, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
First of all, great session. So my question is like, since there are a lot of companies who hire specifically for the post of interaction designer, how can a person who is interested to be an interaction designer grow? Like there are a lot of job opportunities right now. So how can a person grow?
So the first thing is the interaction. I mean, your imagination is the key. So there is nothing gonna beat it. It's fundamental for any job. You want to make a better movie, you need to imagine a good story, right? You want anything. It's all about the purpose and your imagination. In fact, with interaction, we have the freedom of combining two different scenarios or multiple scenarios and make it into one piece so that when they interact, they can reveal, they can explore the additional informations. So there are a lot of tools. You constantly browse the internet, Behance, Dribble. There is a tool called Musli, which can give you a weekly roundup of all the different interactions. Just have a look at, constantly look at things, and then when you are presented with an opportunity, be crazier, be wilder, and try to imagine. And in the beginning, it's going to be mostly like emulating other people's interaction, but over time, once you get the confidence, you will have the courage to make your own crazy interactions and then push forward.
Thank you, Ashik. Ashik, are you a UI designer or what do you do?
No, currently I'm a student, but I got placed as a UI UX designer.
UX, is it?
I got placed as a UI UX designer.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Are you doing a UX or UI course?
I'm doing UX course.
Okay. Is it on IDF?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for that question. And frankly, what I think Chris is trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is definitely take inspiration, but ultimately, bring in your creativity and imagination so that other designers can be inspired by what you make. Right, Chris?
My question was more like, since there are a lot of job opportunities specifically for interaction designer, how can you grow? Like, I can take inspiration from others, I can work on my skills, but when there isn't a job specifically for interaction designer, how can I excel in that specific job?
So interaction ultimately has to serve as a better experience as well, right? That's the ultimate goal. So when you can demonstrate whatever interactions you did actually benefited for a better experience, that's how you can make an argument, and your clients will see the value in you. And when they see value, they will give you better opportunities. They will recognize, right? That's how you will grow as a better interaction designer. We have to solve, and it has to be recognized. That's the only route. But there is a tremendous opportunity if you are an excellent interaction designer, people are gonna love using your application, and that will make you very happy, right? When they appreciate. So there is a lot of scope, and we are still in the early stage. There is a lot more to explore, and the current trend is everywhere. A lot of these interactions are coming in, right? So that means people want more, and the good thing about humans are we get bored very quickly. So whatever we see now, we will get bored in another 6 months or a year. So we need to constantly make it interesting, and the interaction design is what that makes it possible to keep it interesting. So yeah, is it still answering your question?
No, it's fine. I got the answer. Thank you.
I think, I don't know. So I think basically, sometimes it is not a requirement, but whether you can actually suggest as a newbie, as someone who's starting out in design, whether you can put this idea forward to your client, to your, your lead or your manager, and say that, yes, I would like to introduce this as a value addition. So maybe there you can make your mark. Maybe it's not just something that it's, part of the requirement that's put forth. So that's, yeah. So it's, something, I don't know, probably to think about.
That is rightly put, Vandana, because most of the clients, they're not going to ask you that, hey, I need an explicit interaction. When this happens, I want an animation, or I want this icon to change. Nobody's going to ask it. They're going to ask only for the demand for the, the core workflow, right? So this is your interest, and this is your curiosity, which will push it. And when that happens, everybody can see how much invested you are, and that will have its reward.
Most of us users don't know exactly what they want. It's probably when you put forth, I mean, it's just like how, Apple made its revolution. So probably you can make yours. So is there any other questions, or we probably wind up? We are okay to. I would like to request everyone to put in your comments on how you found this session. It would be really great, because Chris has put a lot of work into bringing us this topic, and definitely we had a great turnout today. We had, almost more than 40 people attend today, that too on a busy weekday in the afternoon. So thank you, Chris, for introducing us to, making micro interactions and LottieFiles. And I'd like to thank each and everyone who took their valuable time from a busy day to attend this webinar. Special thanks to all the participants who actively participated in the Q&A session with their questions, with their comments and their experience. To Syed, Mithun, Rahul, Febin, Anwar, Vaishag, thank you, Ajnesh, Jinsan, Azhar, and Ashik. Thank you, and please please attend our coming sessions and be a part of our Q&A. Thank you to all the volunteers of IxDF Kerala team that worked behind the scenes to make this event happen. We've only touched upon this topic, and probably there's more that we can learn about it. So please write to us and let us know how you found the session on our social media handles. And we are available on social media like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse at the IxDF Kerala. You can also write to us on idfkerala@hotmail.com. We have an exclusive IxDF Kerala community in the Interaction Design Foundation website. Hope to see you on 27th July as we come to you with another session, which is on typography. Thank you again, once again, Chris, and stay safe, stay connected, and thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.